Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Heavy rains are expected in the upcoming 2 days in several governorates of the Sultanate of Oman due to an air depression. And Russia intensifies its attacks to the Ukrainian regions of Bakhmut, Kherson, and Kharkiv, and considers NATO a party to the conflict. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq receives a cable of thanks from the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in reply to His Majesty's condolences cable on the death of Her Royal Highness Princess Al Jawhara bint Abdulaziz bin Abdul Rahman Al Saud. The Board of Trustees of the Military Technological College held its annual meeting. During the meeting, a number of topics aimed at achieving excellence in education and academic and technical training were reviewed by providing specialized and accredited vocational programs for the military, security and civil society services. The meeting was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Nasser Al-Zabi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Defense and Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the College. The Civil Aviation Authority issued a first alert as follows. Heavy rains are expected over the Sultanate of Oman due to the effects of an air depression tomorrow and after tomorrow. The Civil Aviation Authority clarified that heavy rains, thunderstorms expected over governorates of Musandam, North Al-Batna, Al-Brahmi and Al-Dhahira, which may range between 30 millimeters to 80 millimeters and will extend gradually over the governorates of South Al-Batna, Al-Dakhliya, Muscat, South and North Al-Sharqiya, Al-Wusta and the Far. The Civil Aviation Authority calls on everyone to take caution during thunderstorm, not to cross wadis, avoid low places, and not to go over to the sea and warning period. During the effects of the air depression, the Ministry of Education announced to suspend studying in the governorates of Musandam, North Batna, Brahmi and Dhahira tomorrow, Tuesday. The Sultanate of Oman stresses on its obligation to the principles of sustainability and its keenness to enhance the efforts of development in various fields through its plans to protect the climate and environment. The climate change phenomena is considered one of the crises that the world countries are cooperating to find proper solutions towards it so as to protect the planet Earth and ensure the sustainability of its resources. The Sultanate of Oman has a number of natural resources and promising potentials that represent an opportunity to facilitate transformation towards clean energy. Upon royal directives of His Majesty the Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, the Sultanate of Oman put up its plans for zero carbon neutrality by the year 2050, which comes in line with the Paris Climate Agreement. Regarding the national strategy for energy in the Sultanate of Oman, as well as to achieve sustainability goals in the country represented in building a renewable green economy that fulfills the national needs and keeps up with the global changes, the Sultanate of Oman seeks to invest in green hydrogen field to push the efforts in industries on low carbon emissions, as well as expand the usage of electricity in transport and manufacturing. The Secretary of Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, said that NATO countries are a party to the conflict in Ukraine, according to experts from an interview with Russian government newspaper Rossiyska Gazeta. Today, Patrushev added NATO made Ukraine one of big military camp. They send weapons and ammunition to the Ukrainian troops and provide them with intelligence. The Russian Ministry of Defense said that its forces targeted military sites in Bakhmut, Kharkiv, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, noting that the heavy losses occurred to the Ukrainian side. Israeli President Isaac Herzog today called for an immediate halt to the government's controversial judicial reforms a day after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sacked his defense minister for similar demands. Herzog, who holds a largely ceremonial post, met the call following spontaneous demonstrations in Tel Aviv overnight in response to the minister's dismissal. Herzog called to halt the legislative process immediately for the sake of the unity of the people of Israel and for the sake of the necessary responsibility. They plan to hand more control to the politicians and diminish the role of the Supreme Court has ignited months of protests and been questioned by Israel's top allies, including the United States, which expresses concern. North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles off its coast today, South Korea's military said, just as a U.S. aircraft carrier staged combined naval exercises with South Korea in warning to Pyongyang. The missiles flew about 370 kilometers after being launched from North Hawaii province, South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said. The Japanese government also said it lodged a strong protest with North Korea. Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary said North Korea was likely to step up provocative activities, including a possible nuclear test. Storm-ravaged Mississippi struggled yesterday with the aftermath of a huge tornado that tore across the southern U.S. state, killing at least 25 people, with devastated communities bracing for a fresh bout of extreme weather. Search and rescue workers surveyed the damage of shredded homes, flattened buildings, and smashed cars in the small town Rolling Fork. After President Joe Biden freed up disaster aid, the National Weather Service warned residents of Mississippi and neighboring Alabama of potential new supercell thunderstorm through yesterday that could produce a few strong tornadoes and very large hail. Dozens of people have also been injured, and officials say the death toll could rise as crew fought fires, conducted searches, and cleared emergency routes. The American Red Cross moved into a National Guard building in Rolling Fork hours after the storm razed much of the town, home to around 2,000 people. The severe weather also left a man dead in Alabama when he was trapped under the overturned trailer. The White House said that Biden's emergency order to support recovery efforts will provide grants for temporary housing, home repairs, and low-cost loans to over uninsured property losses. Still to come in our news bulletin. The Consumer Protection Authority launches an upgraded price monitoring system through its website. Welcome back to the news. Within the Qurban initiative, and for the 7th year in a row, 38 people were freed through courts of the Governorate of Dhahira. The donor, who refused to mention his name, paid the payments of dues to the convicted people, stressing the importance of helping them in the community. The initiative, which is supervised by the Oman Lawyers Society, recorded during the previous edition, releasing more than 4,969 people. The Consumer Protection Authority launched an upgraded price monitoring system, which is one of the electronic services provided by the authority to the consumer through its website. The launch of the developed price monitor system was held under the auspices of His Excellency Sulaym bin Ali Al Hakmani, Chairman of the Consumer Protection Authority. A workshop was organized in the Wilaya of Sahar in North Al-Batna Governorate on digital transformation in government institutions. The workshop discussed the mechanisms of accelerating the implementation on the digital transformation programs in line with its coming phase. It also tackled future plans and initiatives in this field. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Heavy rains are expected in the upcoming 2 days in several governorates of the Sultanate of Oman due to an air depression, and the Ministry of Education announces to suspend studying in some governorates tomorrow, Tuesday. And Russia intensifies its attacks to the Ukrainian regions of Bakhmut, Kherson, and Kharkiv, and considers NATO a party to the conflict. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studios and the newsroom, it's good night and stay safe.